project, I will be talking about diversity in neighborhoods. Neighborhoods are the cornerstone of American life. The neighborhood you live in will shape your access to jobs, schooling, access to food, services, sense of community, and overall perception of the world. Neighborhoods will also greatly shape a child's psychology and how they view people for the rest of their life. If a child grows up in a largely homogeneous neighborhood, then their social perception of others will reflect a sense of unknowing and sometimes prejudice. On the other hand, if a child grows up having daily, common interactions with people of different backgrounds, then their perception of those considered to be others will be much more nuanced. Neighborhoods provide the basis for America's social and racial understandings. But too often, neighborhoods are exclusionary and perpetuate a cycle of people of color being left out of communities with more opportunity, enforcing a modern form of segregation. America is becoming more diverse. It is expected that over the coming century, America's white population will decrease and our populations of color will increase. By the 2040s, whites will be the largest group but an overall minority, and by 2060, minorities will make up 57% of the nation's population. As non-white communities grow, it is safe to say that overall neighborhood diversity will as well, but there are still many restrictions to making America's neighborhoods reflect the true American melting pot in the coming century. So here's the history of why neighborhoods are so segregated. Leaders have historically been less inclined to invest in minority communities. Leaders will often discriminate and not give loans within these communities, and because of public education's connection to property tax, schools in impoverished neighborhoods often perform far worse than their more affluent counterparts. With the majority of impoverished urban communities being majority-minority, it has been hard for people in these communities to ascend financially to a point where they can move to a neighborhood with better opportunities. Sadly, often these neighborhoods are majority white. Even if people of color in these communities do break through their barriers and reach financial success and stability, real estate agents and developers will frequently avoid marketing to minority groups for fear that they will lower the property values. So, why is it important to change this and advocate for more inclusivity in our neighborhoods? Diversity in neighborhoods is extremely important because it builds cultural empathy and cultural understanding. It is easy to stereotype a group of people if you have no relationship with anyone of that affinity. Not only does diversity in neighborhoods help minorities because it brings them closer to better social services and opportunities, in many ways it helps the white community because it helps them combat their prejudice through daily interactions with their neighbors. As stated previously, if a child grows up in a more diverse area, their perception of the world will reflect that. In studies done at institutions with high rates of diversity, students of both groups have been found to be more open, more accepting, and less likely to stereotype. That's not to say that with diversity there are no problems. In diverse settings, people are more willing to feel more hostile, more defensive, and less trustworthy of those around them. But it is the responsibility of all in diverse settings to recognize their biases and look toward common understanding to further both groups' acceptance of the other. On a personal note, I am very lucky to live in such a diverse setting. According to the LA Census, my neighborhood, Mid-Wilshire, is 33% white, 20% Asian, 22% Black, and 20% Latino. I feel very grateful that my community represents America's true diversity, but just across Wilshire in Hancock Park, it is over 70% white. That's not to blame that community, but I invite those that live in a homogeneous community to think about the historical systems in place that may have excluded others from living there, be it redlining or lack of investment from the government or banks in minority communities, or maybe feelings of prejudice that may make others feel unwelcome. To fight this, we can protest our government demanding that we invest equitably across color and neighborhood lines, but I think more effectively is to make a point of connecting with people different than ourselves. Prejudice and exclusion erodes with human connection. It is a lack of that created these exclusionary neighborhood policies. To end on an interesting note, in my house deed it states that my family's property is intended for African Americans and Jews because Hancock Park was seen as a white Protestant community. Even today, my neighborhood reflects that exclusion, and so does our neighborhood community across Wilshire. Even today, we can still see sad remnants of the past. Thank you.